make it way too hard to think that this could be what you love.
Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's your girl Anaya, but you can call me Nye, and I'm back with another video. So today I actually did a quick makeup tutorial, something real quick and cute, and I don't have anywhere to go, but I just feel like doing a video for y'all, making some content. My first makeup tutorial, I didn't list the products that I use, but in this makeup tutorial I will be intentional and list the products that I use so you guys can achieve this look. And you see that, look, you see that highlight and that blush, period. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hey y'all, so I decided that I wasn't going to do my regular voiceover. Instead, I think I'm going to give you guys the ins and the outs and things they do not tell you about labor and pregnancy. So the first thing that I realized is that you can actually have morning sickness for the whole 9 months. So this is something that I personally experienced. So I feel like my symptoms didn't start until literally the second day I found out I was pregnant. So with the morning sickness, mine did not stop after the first trimester. After the first trimester, it started dying down, but once the third trimester came back again, the morning sickness was just like nonstop. So I was throwing up food, fruit, water. I really could not keep anything down, and as a result, I lost so much weight. Like, I literally lost 15 pounds in the first month of me being pregnant. So say I started at 160, by the time the first month of my pregnancy was done, I was weighing 145. Yeah, so that's a lot of weight. But to be honest, nothing really resolved my morning sickness. Like, I was told to eat ginger snaps, and it was a few things ginger to do, but to be honest, nothing worked for me. I really was like so depressed I was really depressed in the first month because I'm just so used to being able to eat. Just be mindful that all in all, you are sharing your body with somebody else, so your body is not going to be exactly what it was. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to tell y'all is a lot of people are low-key going to be body shaming you. So when I say that, because I lost so much weight in the first trimester and I was so small, everybody kept saying, oh my God, you're carrying so small. You're carrying so small. So I'm not sure that they meant it like in a harmful way, but that's just how I took it because I feel like I was associating my size with the fact that my baby may or may not be unhealthy. So another misconception is just because you carry small doesn't mean that you're not going to have a regular size baby. Just to put that in perspective, my son was 7 pounds and 3 ounces when he was born. The next thing I want to let y'all know is you're probably going to lose a lot of friends and family. So I don't mean to say that in a way to like dim your light, but it's really the reality of the situation. So think about it. You're going into the next chapter of your life, motherhood. And I feel like sometimes God removes people from your life that are not meant for the next chapter of your life, if that makes sense. And it's crazy because literally the first couple of people that I told were the ones who, I feel like weren't there for me when I was pregnant. And I feel like, so first of all, when you're pregnant, your hormones just going to be on an all-time high anyway. Like, everything that you feel is just going to be times 10. So it's going to hurt more. But like a way to combat those feelings or just to be mindful of the people that are there for you. Count your blessings and be grateful for the people that did stick beside you in this tough time. Like, pregnancy is literally a make or break of your body. Like, so much stuff can happen. Women literally die in pregnancy and die during labor. So just be mindful and just really focus on your blessing and the fact that you're able to carry. That's the most important thing. Surround yourself around positive people and positivity, and don't dwell on people that God removed from your life. Everything happens for a reason. All right, so for the next thing that I want to tell y'all, I touched on this a little bit in my first video, but it's okay to protect your peace. It's okay if you don't want to tell people that you're pregnant. It's your journey. It's a very vulnerable experience, and I honestly feel like your body spiritually is at its most vulnerable state, if that makes sense. Your mind, your emotions, everything. So don't feel like you're obligated to make people a part of that journey. That journey is for you and your partner. And if you decide to share it with others, then you decide to share it with others. But it's not an obligation, and don't feel obligated. And don't let nobody make you feel bad for that. Me personally, I hid my pregnancy until I was 5 months. And if I could have hid my baby until he came out, I would have done that. Just because I feel like I was at peace, if that makes sense. Like, the people that were going to checked up on me. And the people that weren't. I just don't want people to feel like they have to do something because I'm pregnant. Like, no, I want it to be genuine. So I feel like I kept my pregnancy just a secret. And a lot of times, I was young when I got pregnant. I was 19 years old. So I feel like it was kind of like a topic for people to talk about. Like, oh, guess what's going on with Naya? Let me tell you what's happening with her. So I feel like, just protect your peace by all costs. All right, so the next thing I want to tell y'all about is breastfeeding. So I know you guys hear about liquid gold. They say breast milk is literally liquid gold, which it is. It has so many different properties to it. And it's the healthiest, form of milk for the baby, of course. But it's not for everybody. Like, let's talk about it. So don't let anybody shame you if you decide not to breastfeed. That's between you and your baby, literally. Sometimes the baby might not even latch on to you. And that's okay as well. Like, it's really your journey. And also, breastfeeding could kind of hurt a little bit. Like, so me personally, I breastfed way too long. Like, if you ask me, it was way too long. I breastfed until my son was 1.5. So at that point, he had teeth. He was able to say milk. Like, at that point, I feel like it was too long. Like, but I feel like you already share your body with your baby for 10 months. Because, 40 weeks is 10 months, if you do the math. But you already share your body with your baby for that long. And then you have to, share your body with your baby again. So it's just like, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to breastfeed if that's what you decide you want to do. But I definitely feel like I definitely prolonged the process, and I wish that I would have gave up a little bit sooner than what I did. I feel like it made my son very, very clingy and dependent on me. And not to say that formula-fed babies are always more independent, but I just feel like my personal journey with my son, I feel like I would have given him a sense of independency if I would have took him off the breast sooner than later. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is pretty big. Make sure that you and your partner are making time for each other. So you guys are new parents, and a lot of the first couple weeks to the first 3 months of your child's life is going to be solely about the baby. So when you do decide that you want to get back out there into the real world and start going into your everyday routine as you was before you had your baby, I would say that you do date nights. I would say every other weekend, because that's more realistic. But if you can, I would say once a week if you can. Even if it's just a movie night when the baby goes to sleep, or, a walk around the block, anything. Just make sure that you're making time for your partner. I feel like this is something that, that can make or break relationships after you have the baby. Y'all have to be mom and dad, but y'all also have to be such and such and such and such outside. You have to have an identity outside of being parents. And I feel like that's so big and that's so major. And I feel like, if I'm being vulnerable, I feel like that's something that messed up me and my son's dad relationship. The fact that we weren't making enough time for one another, and just in the process of all the stress of being a new parent. So yeah, so make sure you make time for your partner. All right, y'all, so let's talk about sex. So women, let's keep in mind as you just push the whole baby out your vagina, it's not going to be exactly what it was before. It will go back. It will go back to what it was, or like close to what it was, but it's not going to be the exact same right after you give birth. So be very mindful of that. So for me personally, sex hurt for a really long time. I'm talking about, like, I'm not trying to scare y'all, but like for like 9 months after I had my son, sex was very painful. So my doctor was saying that it was a result of me being on birth control, and I'm gonna get into that as well. And also a combination of the birth control and also with me breastfeeding is what caused the tissues down there to be a little bit more tender than what they were. So sex after having a baby can be very uncomfortable, and you're gonna have to, have a partner that takes his time with you so that you can get back to, back to normal when it comes to doing a do. But definitely do not, definitely it's important to have a supportive partner that understands that a woman's body has went through so much trauma throughout the whole process of being pregnant and also giving birth, being in labor. So just be mindful of that. Make sure you pick a great partner that understands that. I had a great partner who understood, and was very patient with me in regards to that. So the next thing that I want to discuss with y'all is birth control. So after you have your baby, I'm talking the minute you push your baby out, they will be asking you, what birth control do you plan on getting on? If you do not have any intentions of getting on birth control, do not let the doctors or hospital or anybody else of that nature bully you into getting on birth control. Me personally, I tried 3 different birth controls before my whole life. When I was in high school, I tried the pill. For me, I kept forgetting to take it, so it caused me to have like irregular bleeding. Then after high school, when I was in college, I tried the NuvaRing. So while I was doing the NuvaRing, it was okay, but the NuvaRing caused me to bleed for 1 month straight. I'm already anemic, so that put a lot of stress on my body. Like, I was always feeling drained. I was feeling tired. It was just a lot going on. So after I had my son, I made the biggest mistake ever and decided to get on freaking Depo. So Depo, I would say Depo ruined me. Depo made me bleed for 4 months. Let's start there. 4 months nonstop bleeding. And in the beginning, it was enough to probably fill up a pad or so every 2 or 3 hours. But then after a while, it started slowing down the spotting, but it still wasn't my regular, my regular self. So I still felt off. But yes, I was bleeding for 4 months straight. I'm anemic. I was feeling drained throughout that whole entire time. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling crazy. I gained a lot of weight. And I wasn't so upset about the weight gain because I didn't mind gaining a few pounds or whatever. But I feel like overall the bad outweighed the good. And I feel like when it comes to something foreign that you're putting into your body, you're gonna have a lot of bad symptoms. So that's why I tell you, don't let the doctors sway you left or right when it goes to choosing a birth control. You do not have to be on birth control. They also have natural forms of birth control as well. So I would advise you to do your own research and to figure out what works best for you. But me personally, my birth control right now is abstinence. That's my birth control right now. But I 100% would never put myself on birth control ever again. I feel like it tore my body up. And I just feel like overall it was not worth it. Now let's get into laboring. So I don't know if you're aware or not, but you can make a birth plan. So if you make a birth plan, these are things that you establish in black and white before you actually go into labor. Because when you are in labor, you're probably going to be at an all-time high. You're going to be feeling you're going to be in pain, and you're not going to most likely be able to think straight. So we create the birth plan beforehand. So that way, your doctors and your partner can reinforce the things that you wanted to do prior to, you going into labor. So for me, I was in labor for 3 days. That's number one. I went into labor Easter Sunday, and I gave Easter Sunday of 2021, and I gave birth to my son 72 hours later. So the first 2 days I labored at home, I started getting contractions, but my contractions were not consistent enough for me to go to the hospital. They were every 10 minutes for 2 days straight. So finally, on the third day, they let me come into the hospital. They checked me for dilation, and that's when they found out I was 5 centimeters. So I don't know if you know or not, but at 5 centimeters, they have to keep you at the hospital. They cannot send you home once you reach 5 centimeters. So basically, when we got in, I stopped dilating at a regular speed, but I was still getting contractions. So that's when they introduced me to Pitocin. I wish, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never freaking got Pitocin. I would have let my body do what it did on its own time because it was not a rush. Seriously, pain is temporary. I would have been okay. Pitocin cramps are the cramps from hell. They cause the contractions from hell. Do you hear what I'm telling you? I'm not trying to scare you, but I would go as natural as you can in regards to drugs and medicine throughout the labor process. Pitocin made my contractions so strong. They made them so close together. And then on top of that, my body was progressing at such a fast speed that I couldn't keep up. So I was stuck at 9 centimeters and 3/4 for 1 whole hour. So just imagine a bowling ball trying to escape out of your tiny little hole. The feeling of a bowling ball, the gravity of it just pushing down on your cervix, the pain it was nothing like that. I've never experienced it. I literally thought that I was going to be unalive. Seriously, I thought this was the end of my life. I thought that I was done. The pain, I had to wear an oxygen mask while I was in labor. I was hyperventilating because every time that they told me not to push, I couldn't push, even though my body is telling me it's time to push. The doctors kept telling me that I was not allowed to push because I was not 10 centimeters dilated. The Pitocin is the devil. Do not do it. If you're listening to me and you're hearing what I'm telling you right now, do not do the Pitocin if you have a choice. So most places give you something called cervical checks starting at 39 weeks, I believe, or maybe even 37 weeks. This is when they basically stick their hand in your area to see how far you've dilated. So they do this while you're in active labor. So while you're feeling those contractions, they're literally sticking their whole hand up your area. It was so painful for me. I don't know if it was painful for everybody else, but it was very, very painful for me. Like literally to the point where every time they did it, I literally had tears coming out of my eyes. So I did get the epidural. The epidural did help with the pain of the cervical checks, because after a while, I just felt like a lot of pressure. It didn't necessarily feel like, they were sticking their hand up there. But I don't know if you noticed or not, but you can deny cervical checks. You do not have to get cervical checks done. You do not have to get cervical. You can tell your doctor that you just would like to trust your body and you do not want to get cervical checks done. So if I would have known that, I probably would have went that route, being that it was so uncomfortable for me. I feel like every time that they went to go give me a cervical check, they were putting me in more distress than my body was already being put in. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is epidurals. So I know you probably heard the whole thing that if you move and you're getting an epidural that you're going to go paralyzed. That's actually a myth. I did my research on it. It's a myth. Yes, if you actually jerk around and jump, then yes, you're putting your body at risk to possibly be paralyzed by the epidural. However, a little slight movement or ouch will not cause you to be paralyzed if the epidural needle sticks you the wrong way. You have to stay as still as you can, but like, let's be realistic. You're going to be experiencing contractions. You're not going to be that still, So one thing I would say, if I had another kid, I would not get the epidural. Whenever it rains, my back hurts so freaking bad. And I wish somebody would have freaking told me. They may have told me, but I was in so much pain. I just, I labored for 3 days. By the time I got to the hospital, I was ready to give whatever. I just wanted my son to be out of me and I did not want to feel any more pain. But if my labor was shorter, I would have 1000% went without an epidural. I would have went 100% natural. Don't get me wrong. It does make you feel good. But my epidural wore off by the time it was time for me to push. I felt my son come out. I felt everything. I felt the pressure. I felt everything. My epidural wore off. When she was stitching me up at the end, I felt the needle going in and out. So I feel like, yeah, the epidural does what it does, but not for long periods of time. So if you labor and your labor is short, the epidural will do what it needs to do. But if your labor is long and prolonged, it's not going to do what it needs to do. So I feel like I wish somebody would have told me not to get the epidural done. And the last and final thing I want to talk to you guys about is the fact that you can lose a lot of blood during labor. Like, after you give birth to your baby, you can lose a lot of blood. So for me, my doctor automatically decided that he wanted to give me iron infusions before even going into labor, solely because I'm anemic and I also was a carrier of the alpha thalassemia trait. So he just wanted to ensure the fact that I would not bleed out during birth. After I gave birth to my son, I literally was bleeding out clots that were the size of my placenta. I was so out of it that I didn't even have a chance to see my placenta. All I remember is my son's dad and my mom telling me how the doctor was just down there for a long time and they were literally pushing these clots out of me filled with blood. So I would just say that, with giving birth, there is a chance that you can lose a lot of blood. So if you are anemic, I would recommend that you ask your doctor for iron infusions prior to even giving birth, so that it will lower your risk of bleeding out, basically. Like, not trying to scare you or anything like that, because overall, giving birth to a human being is automatically, a risk. But there are a lot of pros as well. Like, everything is not bad when it comes to labor. I just focus mainly on that because that's what I wanted to make this video about. But today I really just want to share with you guys, the ins and outs of being pregnant and also giving birth. And if you want any more tips or if you want any more advice in regards to this topic, I can go into more depth and deeper detail about this topic. If you would like, just let me know. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and go into the bio where I will be linking all of the products that I use in today's video. Thank you so much for supporting me. As always, I love you, my hearts. Mwah.